Hey everyone, New York Dan here this afternoon. We are going to talk about the elephant in the room today, Bitcoin. Yeah, man, oh man, it's like look out below. This is insane. If you guys are new to the channel, I do day trading and stock trading. That's how I make my living. Yeah, and I actually have a members only portion where you can see some of the trades I do. Well, when I do trades, I pop up a quick video, show you guys what I'm up to. Markets have been terrible today. Luckily, a lot of the stuff I have has been holding up because I've never been huge into tech. I do have some tech, but luckily I've avoided the pitfalls. There's been some real pitfalls today, folks. I'm going to talk about Bitcoin, though, in this video, and I'm going to tell you its inherent value. I happen to know exactly what Bitcoin, the inherent value of it, where it would go to, where it could go to in a worst-case scenario. Yeah, it's sliding all the time. The problem is Bitcoin, in my opinion, the way that it's framed up, the way it works, this is really scary. But you know, you've heard of Bernie Madoff with the Ponzi scheme, originally named after Charles Ponzi from the early 1900s. He was conducting the original, hence the name Ponzi. Yeah, where what happens is the asset doesn't actually increase in value on its own. What happens is the new investors putting money into it, that's what's paying off the investors that seemingly made money on the asset. It's just being paid off by having more and more investors buying into it than the number cashing out. It's really messed up. That's how the Ponzi scheme works. And apparently with Madoff, he wasn't even investing any of the money into stocks. He was just doing this classic Ponzi structure where he was constantly relying on more new investors coming in than the number of investors cashing out. And that worked great until the markets got shaky and people got worried. When they worried, they cashed out their investment. And that's what led to Bernie Madoff's downfall. He suddenly was faced with more people cashing out than the amount of money coming in, and he couldn't make good on the payments to the people that were cashing out. Let's see here what Bitcoin's doing. Oh, it got ugly. The markets are still at almost session lows today. Not good. I saw the market starting to recover this afternoon, but then I noticed what was going on is there was a disconnect. Bitcoin was dropping further and the markets were going up. And I was suspicious of that as far as buying into any tech, because a lot of the tech-oriented companies, they kind of trade like Bitcoin. And I noticed if Bitcoin's going down, those companies might go down too. Wow, guys, Bitcoin is down now to 64,092. It's down 12% today. It's really messed up. How low will it go? Well, New York Dan is going to get to that. He's going to talk about that in today's video. Yes, Bitcoin, or we had a subscriber by the name of Just Joe, and he would always call it Bitcorns. Huh. Yeah, Bitcorns. There's a lot of people buying into like plays on Bitcoin. There's companies related to it that do Bitcoin mining and exchanges and stuff like that on the stock exchange. So you can play Bitcoin by simply buying certain companies on the stock exchange. I believe that's what Long Island Ken is famous for doing. He loved Bitcoin. He said it was going Up, up, and away. Yeah, remember when it was at 120,000 in the summertime? Yeah. So the whole deal is, man, this whole thing has been a crazy story, how cryptocurrency came about. And you have a circle of people in the mix. Remember Sam Bankman-Fried? Yeah, they had him featured on CNBC. They were saying he was like a guru and he was an expert with crypto. And man, at one point he was famous and they were looking to interview him for their CNBC conferences, their all the hype that they do. And look what the deal was. He was a criminal. He was playing around with these companies. He was in the Bahamas and he was doing illicit activities with the company money. He was taking legitimate company money earmarked for one thing, and he was like gambling with it, essentially putting it into like Bitcoin related stuff to shore up his crypto company when Bitcoin wasn't doing well. Yeah, it's a gambler's take. The thing goes up, it goes down. It's really disturbing how the thing works. I'm going to get into it, guys. Just you wait. Yeah, I just wanted to mention, I have a few things jotted down here. I was getting a kick out of this. On CNBC, they love to sensationalize stories. They put stuff up. It's always some kind of clickbait, and they're like, oh, this person quit their job, and they turned their side hustle into $1 million a year income. They always love to do that stuff. Well, they were touting about this thing where they were calling these people, they were like, the Bitcoin family. They retired from their jobs. They're like, oh, they have Bitcoin in these Bitcoin wallets, and they have it stored all over the world. Yeah, they put all their money into Bitcoin, and they don't have to work because it keeps going up. And they moved to some remote location, and they were living the life, and they have 2 kids or whatever. They coined them the Bitcoin family. Unbelievable. The amount of crap around this stuff. Okay. Here's the thing with Bitcoin. This damn Bitcoin, man. And to make matters worse, you know how polluting to the environment Bitcoin is? All the mining of Bitcoin. That's why part of it, and now we have AI too, it's the same kind of thing where they need all this computing power. But just mining Bitcoin, and the Bitcoin miners are actually operating the Bitcoin system. It's more than just mining. All the transactions are being processed and kept a ledger with the Bitcoin miners. It's called decentralized finance. It's not one location. There's not one Bitcoin safe. It's not like Fort Knox. No, it's spread out amongst all these users that are Bitcoin miners running computer systems. They're running the infrastructure essentially of Bitcoin and keeping track of it. And that's why in return, it's kind of a random, kind of a lotto kind contest. Every so many millions, probably billions of transactions, they kick them out of Bitcoin as payment. That's essentially how it works. So when you hear of a Bitcoin miner, they have to be using a massive amount of computing power and electricity to run the system. And then in reward, they're generating some new Bitcoin that they get to keep or sell to pay for their operation. Now, believe it or not, there is a limit to when the Bitcoin, at some point, they're not going to be allowed to mine them anymore. And I wonder what's going to happen when it gets to that point. The algorithm that Bitcoin runs on, it slowly cuts down the rewards of the miners. Yeah, the whole thing is just weird. And people have said that the structure of it where it needs so much computing power, it's not efficiently, the algorithm is not efficient with Bitcoin. They said like Ethereum is a better cryptocurrency. It's a more efficient algorithm. It uses less power to run it. Go figure, guys. At some point, humans will not have enough electricity because machines will be using all the available electricity and making an environmental catastrophe, polluting the environment, so that we have these ridiculous things going on, computing power with AI and Bitcoin. Isn't that insane? That's where we're headed. But here's the deal. Bitcoin is really on shaky ground. It may not be around in the future. I'm serious, guys. It started, the reason why Bitcoin took off, it was used for crime, criminal activity, people making payment for all kinds of illegal stuff, drug transactions, things like that, big cartels, who knows. They were using Bitcoin because they thought, at the time, they thought it couldn't be traced. It's not linked to one country. It was the perfect tool to use. And that's what drove it up in value to start with. That's how it became the prominent cryptocurrency. And then other currencies came out later, but Bitcoin had become more mainstream at that point. Yeah. Here's the deal. Now, with all the technology that they have, government has as well, and there's high-profile cases where they've been able to track down, the FBI has been able to track down the Bitcoin transactions and figure out what crimes took place, where the money went, etc. So once that became publicized, that countries can trace what Bitcoin's been used for, that's a game changer right there. Its tool for crime has been significantly reduced. Its ability to be used as a tool for criminal activity, it's been cut. That's huge. Okay, it becomes less valuable, if not useless, for criminal activity. The only reason it was staying afloat is because a retail investor is buying into it now as it became more mainstream. And a lot of talk how it's the future of currency. Yeah, all talk, folks. That kept Bitcoin hyped up. Yeah, people buying into it, just like Charles Ponzi and Bernie Madoff with their schemes. If you have a ton of people buying into it, it's pushing the value up, right? So then the people that cash out at the higher value, they're essentially taking the money that the people who bought into it at the lower levels, or my mistake, the higher levels, as it got very steep. All the people buying in at the higher levels, the people cash out. They had bought in at the lower level. They just took the new investors' money, essentially. Yeah, I cannot believe it's not illegal. Yeah, that's how messed up it is. Now, here's something to keep in mind with Bitcoin. There's no country backing up Bitcoin. It does not have a Fort Knox. There is no United States backing it up. Nope. No, not even a third world country. No countries are backing up the value of Bitcoin. The US dollar doesn't go off the gold standard anymore with Fort Knox, but the United States essentially backs up the value of the dollar just because the government, it's the official currency and the government stands behind it and uses it. Yeah, it is backed up to a point, US dollars. But Bitcoin, no such luck. Now get this. You know, with stocks, you have a lot of stocks get overinflated, tech companies, etc. Well, there is a company behind the value of those stocks. There is, in fact, valuable intellectual property and assets behind the shares of a lot of stocks that are publicly traded. However, with Bitcoin, there is no company behind Bitcoin to back up its value either. Nope. Okay, if you think about how Bitcoin came about and how the Bitcoin works, man, you would think that it would be illegal. You wouldn't believe it. And I think some people and countries and leaders have been very optimistic about it. They like the theory and they think it's good for business it's like progressive. But in reality, if you think about it, no country has stepped up to the plate and actually backed any kind of value mark of Bitcoin. Yeah, one of the countries in Central America, South America, I believe, which country was it that was using it? Ecuador? Yeah, maybe even El Salvador. They made some bold steps and they were like, we are going to adopt Bitcoin as a legitimate currency in our country. You can use it here to buy stuff. Yeah, well, we kind of do that too in the United States. It's just that you have to exchange it in most places, exchange it over for dollars. That's kind of how the principle around it. But some progressive businesses in the States actually accept Bitcoin for payment. Yeah, there's been some things like that going on. However, nobody has actually officially backed it up. So, man, guys, the value of the Bitcoin, right? It's trading like a stock on Wall Street where you have buyers and sellers, a market. They price it out basically, right? However, just like you see with tech stocks, they can get way overinflated and then they come way down. If there's no profits to back up or justify that price, a lot of stocks are bought on speculation. What the company is going to do in two or 3 years from now, say. The price is high today because they think the company is going to make a lot of money in the future. And there's assets behind it as well. Usually if the company doesn't come through and make a lot of money, when those stocks get pumped up, they come crashing down. Yeah, it's really bad, guys. Here's the deal with Bitcoin. There is nothing backing that thing up like a company. It's simply a market, what market makers are pricing it at. Therefore, if there's a run on Bitcoin and people want to cash out of it, you're going to see something that is going to be insane. Where Bitcoin can go off a steep slope. It can start dropping and dropping, and the trajectory is going to go like this. And it will just get steeper and steeper, and it can go down all the way down to the ground. It probably will not go down to zero because there's going to be enthusiasts for it. There's computer geeks that love Bitcoin. People will buy it just to buy it. But it doesn't really have any inherent value at all. Believe it or not, a United States penny, sounds crazy, but it's true. 1 penny, you may find one today on the street, that has more value behind it than Bitcoin. Yup. 1 US penny has more value than 1 Bitcoin. It's true. You're relying on market makers and kind of a Ponzi scheme type of trading structure that someone else is willing to pay a high level of money for Bitcoin when it really doesn't have any cash value. Yeah, isn't that crazy? It's essentially monopoly money that's hyped up. Yeah, I mean, so what I'm thinking is there's a number of computer geeks and people that will buy into it just to have a Bitcoin. You know, if it gets cheap enough, they might take their some of their money they get from their internships, or you know, they might have small money that they want to put into it. Be like, oh, I want to buy a Bitcoin. But what is that number really at? The serious money, the people that have a ton of it. Man, just a short while ago, Bitcoin was trading around like 13,000, 14,000 US dollars a couple years back. I mean, it's not impossible for it to go below that mark. Yeah, it was there before. When Bitcoin first started, it was only like $1,000 or like 600 something. Yeah. It's not impossible for it to go back to that. A lot of the people that really are enthusiastic in Bitcoin, I don't know if there's enough of them to really make it that valuable. The big players, the criminal activity, all that stuff, if they don't buy into it, and if there's a run on Bitcoin where people lost their shirts, I'm thinking it could go down to some nominal amount, like maybe like $2,000, something like that. Yeah. Just enough that an average, you got like a geek working at Best Buy or something, right? And they could afford to put $2,000 into a Bitcoin. And they're like, wow, man, I want to own a Bitcoin. That's what I'm thinking, guys. This is bad. It's Michael Jackson bad. Yeah. I've said this, and I just was talking about Bitcoin a few weeks ago for my members, and I was saying it's bad news. I'm like, I don't do anything with cryptocurrency. Like, I'm not getting involved with it. It's bad news. I just said that like a month ago. Yup. Bitcoin, what a story. And you know what? It's really bad for the environment on top of it. So it would be a blessing if Bitcoin went away. Believe it or not. It would be a blessing environmentally. Generating all this power just to do this crap, it's ridiculousness. The efficiency of the US dollar, when you even to print all the paper money and all that stuff, you know, it's insanely more efficient than what Bitcoin does. With the power usage and everything, the energy, you could be heating people's homes. People are struggling to pay their heating bill, their electric bill, you know, and that's humanity we're talking about. And because Bitcoin is using all the energy, it's insanity. It really is. Man. I've always said it. I've been like, Bitcoin, this thing, it's bad news. Some computer geeks came up with it, and it got some traction because of crime. I've always said it, though. I've been like, this thing is, I've never liked it. I've always been like, it's a scam, basically. And then Sam Brinkman-Fried was paying all this money to advertise even at sports stadiums and stuff, big name stuff, for his Bitcoin investment. Yeah, his Bitcoin investment firm. They even had Tom Brady in on it, I think. They were like, are you ready? Are you in? Do you want to get in on it? Man. Ay, 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 guys. Well, hey, I do a lot of commentary on my channel, and I also do this. I talk stocks with the members. Yeah, I invite you to subscribe. I'm going to be doing a cruise soon, adults only cruise out of Florida on Carnival. Going to be doing a big trips coming up on my channel. Yeah, I don't always do this kind of video, but I figure today is the day to do it. For all the people, do a free video about the Bitcoin. Yup. And we'll see what happens. We'll see where this bumpy ride goes, where it ends. I just hope it doesn't pull down the legitimate stock market with it. That's the problem. And the economy. That's the problem with tying. It's good that it's happening now, because this is the problem with tying the economy to Bitcoin, or legitimate companies to Bitcoin. Yeah, it's good that there's a correction now, so people get a taste of it. They know what's going on before it gets any more entangled. Yeah. Anyways, guys, that's my rant of the day. Yep, this is your friend, New York Dan. Depending upon if you're into Bitcoin or not. Maybe I'm not your friend. I don't know. Hit the thumbs up. And yeah, hopefully the markets will recover and things will get back on track. Yup. I'll see you guys in the next video. Over and out.